Hello, this is Natalia Starobravo, the 275th day of Ukraine's heroic resistance, the ninth month of the full-scale war of Russia against Ukraine, and we are starting our special event. This is a panel discussion, Victory Generation, how Ukrainian youth lived during the war. For since the first moment when Ukraine learned that Russia started a full-scale invasion into Ukraine, the first to start the wave of helping and supporting the Ukrainian military and each and every one of us were the young people. And I would like to start with Stanislav Hvozdinskyi, the representative of the Youth Policy Department and student mayor of Lviv, and ask him how the youth actually caught this wave and how they reacted to the events happening in Ukraine. Well, I should tell you that the young people, they joined their efforts very quickly. We didn't have any fear because in the morning of the 24th of February, I got a call from my colleagues from the Student Council in Lviv and from work from the Department of Youth Policy, and I got calls from many other young people calling me and asking, Stas, so where should I go? What should I do? So there was no fear. And on the 24th of February, if I'm not mistaken, maybe Rostyslav will correct me if I am, the mayor had a meeting with young people, representatives of various NGOs, and these were really good professional managers. So they had a discussion to understand what we are going to do and how we're going to do in times of war in Lviv. And that was the beginning of very large-scale volunteer activity. So we started a volunteer hub at Lviv City Council. We started working at various rayon administrations, which also hosted a lot of young people as volunteers. They also started working at the railway station and bus stations because starting from the first days of war, there were many people, many IDPs coming to Lviv. And I think that my colleagues will also add something. Thank you, and I would like to also stress that we also have the representatives of the BUR organization Building Ukraine Together. This is a volunteer organization that has been functioning since 2014, since the times of the first invasion of Russia into Ukraine. And I would like to give the floor to Mariana Faryniak, the project manager of the Building Ukraine Together project. Hello, thank you. Talking about the year of 2014, the first place the representatives of our organization, went, that was Kramatorsk, although we were not an organization at that time yet. And working in Kramatorsk, we had this idea of scaling this good neighborhood policy when young people come together and build back together, but also produce various new ideas, generate new ideas. And this camp in Kramatorsk concluded by the project Free House, Vilna Khata, which you may have heard about. And during all these years, we have been rebuilding not only the houses, which were destroyed because of war, but we had other volunteer events in all regions of Ukraine. And on the 24th of February, just as many others, we started various initiatives of helping the military and so on and so forth. And in March and April, we realized that we should go back to our program activity and start volunteer initiatives on reconstruction and rebuilding. And it was not, the creation of these initiatives, but restoring these initiatives, because we had so many objects that needed restoration, and doing that in a centralized way from a Lviv office was very difficult. So we decided that we need to have the coordinators and administrators in places who will be deciding, taking decisions, signing the documents, and so on and so forth, so that we can repair as many houses as possible. And it was probably the first time in our 8 years of activity that this November we continued our volunteer activities and we have new initiatives, and now we have requests from local communities that we would like to organize the boot camp. So we will keep working in November, in December, in January, and February. So if you would like to join these rebuilding and reconstruction projects, please do. Thank you. We also have representatives of the large youth organization Plast. And I think that everyone in Ukraine has heard about this organization. Many people have been members of it. So I would like to give the floor to Nazar, the deputy chair of Plast in Lviv. So what was the task you decided you should work on the 24th of February when you heard about the full-scale invasion? Good afternoon, everyone. In our organization, our main aim is to develop young people. We have the mentors who help their mentees to develop, and they work with them every week. When the full-scale invasion started, so we changed the vector of our activities. We created a humanitarian volunteer headquarters at Plast, and some of the young people, members of our organization, went to the front lines, and some of them became the volunteers in the humanitarian field and military field. We had many challenges, but with a great community we joined our efforts and we divided the tasks. So each and every one of us had certain responsibilities. Some of us helped meeting the IDPs at the railway station. Some of us created a humanitarian hub where people could come and help those who went to fight at the front lines, sent them the humanitarian assistance. This changed our realities, but because our organization sees help to others as one of the top priorities, young people who are members of our organization were ready for that because they had years of the respective upbringing. Well, thank you. I remember on the 24th of February, everyone went to Telegram and there started mass messages. Who should do what, who should organize what. They started learning the information about Ukraine from Telegram channels. So I would like to give the floor to Rostyslav Radysh, the head of the Center for United Solutions, which is a public organization. Could you please tell us what you do? Thank you. My morning started by me getting into my car, starting it, and seeing that I have only 40 kilometers to go, so I can't go to the border with Poland. Well, I can only go to King Cross Mall and back. And at that moment, when I was figuring out the problem with my car, I got a call from the Department of Youth Policy of Lviv City Council, and they asked me to find a dozen volunteers who would be filing documents for the IDPs coming to Lviv. And that's when we had the idea of creating a chat, finding, 50 people, joining our efforts with the Department of Youth Policy and the Student Council of Lviv. We should start working and so we will be happy because of that. But as soon as we created this chat, in about a couple of hours, we had more than 7,000 people there, and the next day we had 15,000 people there. So talking about the peak moments, that was in March when we had more than 30,000 people who wanted to volunteer. So our day started from coordinating these people, defining the tasks for them together with the Department of Youth Policy. Our priority then were the IDPs. As Stanislav mentioned, on the 24th of February, we gathered with the mayor of the city and discussed the matters of coordination, and we decided that our chat, Volunteers Lviv, will be the main channel of coordination of efforts of the volunteers in the city of Lviv. And we started getting messages from people saying that they would like to be active and help. And starting from the first day, we got these messages about help. So this chat became a tool to find connections between people needing help and people wanting to help. I would like to draw several examples. On the first day, we started preparing the Molotov cocktails. So again, this was the activity which people needed to to feel that they are doing something useful. We realized that the war is going on, but we didn't know where it is at the moment, and it could have broken out in Lviv any moment. So on the first day, we started preparing Molotov cocktails, and we managed to do more than 2,000 bottles in a couple of days. So we knew where to send them and where to, well, direct the energy used by people to prepare these Molotov cocktails. And then we also had this sector of work with the IDPs. They started coming to the railway station Lviv, and we have a curfew, and people don't know what to do, whether someone can come pick them up or not, whether they could be sent to the places where they have found refuge. So it was very interesting. Before the war, I was in charge of organization of mass events in Lviv, and I had the contact details of the heads of various law enforcement and other bodies in Lviv. So when we started preparing these Molotov cocktails, I gave a call to one of the law enforcement structures within the police. So I called to one of the heads of the department and I asked him, well, we are making Molotov cocktails. Is it allowed? And we need to transport them. Can someone accompany us? Well, to transport them, and they say, do what you want. We don't have enough people to do everything. And at that moment, we realized that the way we, as volunteers and young people, start working, the way we start distributing our energy, that will be the impetus for the future. And that's how it actually happened. So coming back to this railway station thing, people started coming there. People had the wish to help. So we got a lot of messages from people saying they would like to help, and we communicated to police, and they said that you can't go anywhere during the curfew. And then we got a call from the member of the Lviv City Council, and he says, yes, you can do that. But you know, if I write something on the chat, so I will bear the responsibility, not the deputy, not the member of the city council, not the representative of the police. So the chat became a communications platform. That was something people needed in the first couple of months. So they needed to get news quickly. They wanted to help, or they wanted to get help if it was needed. And this also helped us teach other people how they should work in their places. For example, on the third day of war, we brought 12 buses of humanitarian aid. We were one of the first. I think that Plast was probably before us because they did it on the second day. And this humanitarian aid and this process we started helped us help other people get humanitarian aid from abroad and transport it across the border in the right way. So this was a precedent. The president of the chat helped other people create local networks in other cities and towns, which helped them join their efforts and use the examples we used to help smaller groups of people, so which allowed us to delegate many tasks, because in 275 days we have published more than 35,000 of messages. We had 5 administrators, so if we divide 35 by 5, so that is about 7,000 messages per person. So this is a big chunk of information that needs to be processed, and we keep publishing information, and we also organize the trips to the occupied territories and to our armed forces. We bring them vehicles, and we also share information how to do it in a legal way. Thank you. But I would like to also stress the fact that we probably don't have any organization or company in Ukraine who has not helped Ukrainian defenders and all Ukrainian citizens. In particular, IT companies which have attached a lot of efforts to help Ukraine, and we have a representative of GlobalLogic company, that is Ostap, Pona, who is an engineer at this company, and we have heard about this company quite a lot, and we have heard a lot about your contribution for, well, Ukraine. So could you tell us more about that? Well, what should I start with? Well, what concerns our volunteering efforts? Telegram chats have already been mentioned. GlobalLogic also has a volunteer Telegram chat where people sent their requests. And as far as I remember, starting from the uh, outbreak of the full-scale war, we managed to raise about 15 million hryvnias for various needs. So we have more than 7,500 employees, and almost everyone has a friend or a relative fighting at the front lines. So we keep having various requests, and the whole company tries to help to meet and this request. So we had this quite a recent request of for 3D printers to print the components for drones, and we found people to help with that quite quickly. And starting from the beginning of war, we started evacuating people because we had offices in Kyiv and in Kharkiv. And we organized it quite quickly, and it basically in the first days of war we relocated these people to Lviv, and we started looking for housing for them, and everyone knows what the situation with housing was here in Lviv at the moment, so we even located some people in our offices. Ukraine is called an unbreakable nation, and if it was not for the Ukrainian youth who started this volunteer movement on the 24th of February, if they did not start this initiative, we don't know what would have happened by now. So what is this phenomenon of Ukrainian youth, and how do Ukrainian young people manage to have this initiative, and what drives them? Ostap, could you be the first to answer? Well, Ukrainian youth knows what is an independent Ukraine because they were born in times of independent Ukraine, and they have been living in times of independent Ukraine, and they want to do their best to keep Ukraine independent. And fortunately, our young people are very proactive, and they do their best to make sure that our victory is near. Rostyslav, thank you for your question. Well, you see, it's important to understand here that young people want to join their efforts, they want to have a good time, and they want this good time to bring positive results. So when we work at our warehouses, we had some moments when the volunteers came not only to volunteer, but also to have a good time with their new friends, which they found there, with people they met there. They wanted to sing songs, to have lunch together, to talk about something, to reflect on some topics. And I think that this has become the key for the young people. So this was their wish to communicate and to be useful. Mariana? Well, I first thought of saying that young people around the world are always proactive and active, but then I thought about an aggressor country where the young people are not that active to counteract this aggression. So I like to think, just like Timothy Snyder mentioned, that Ukraine as a territory is in the center of many historical events, and we it's not only this generation of young people, but the previous generations of young people. They lived through various historically significant events, and this is at some genetic level, or is a history of the family, the spirit of freedom. It's been passed on from generation to generation, the willingness to be free and independent. And we really wish to continue setting these trends and to change the views on the global democracy, to probably discard the things that are outdated and not effective. Well, it's difficult to answer your question, but we definitely have the spirit, and it's very motivational. It motivates us staying here because very often people ask, "Why are you staying here?" And you look at those people who have stayed here as well, and you understand why you're here, and you want to keep working together with them. Thank you. Well, first of all, young people need socialization, especially in situations of crisis, when all other things become much less important, like your studies, work, and so on and so forth. In the first days of a full-scale war, for example, young people are ready to accept any challenges because this is the only way to be valuable, to be needed, and to be a part of the community, to be together with the others. And this is what motivates young people to act, and this is what motivates them to contribute to the greater good. And for young people, it's very important to socialize and to find their voice in times when it's so hard for everyone. Thank you. And I would like to reiterate everything my colleagues mentioned before me, because back in 2020, in March, COVID-19 pandemic brought very big changes into our life, into our work, everything we did at work and in our free time. And of course, COVID well, divided us. Everyone started working online, talking online, and so on. But when the war broke out on the 24th of February, everyone became more united. Everyone forgot about the COVID-19 pandemic because we have a common goal. So why are our young people so cool? Why did they manage to organize their efforts so quickly? It's because they are fearless. And as my colleague mentioned, they have seen a lot in their lives, and they have been in many countries of the world, and they have realize that Ukraine is their homeland and they have to do everything possible to save it. And there used to be a saying I heard from my father, well, our home is on the edge, but we tend forgetting the end of the saying. My house is on the edge, so I'm the first to meet the enemy. So this is the mentality of Ukrainian young people. Thank you. So as soon as we have started talking about the challenges we face right now, a very important challenge of this war, which is also an informational war, so one of the challenges is the Russian propaganda. When we are fighting, we online, on Telegram channels and the internet, what are the challenges of the Ukrainian youth, and how do young people fight the Russian propaganda? Well, I'll be brief. I well, before the full-scale invasions, I liked filtering all the information on the news, and I did not trust that unverified information and information sources. And with the beginning of war, we had many fakes, and even the residents of Lviv felt it's like the information about various marks around the city. So this was done to make the civilians panic, but this was also done by the Russian aggressor. So what concerns fake news and the fight with Russia at the informational front lines, I should tell you that on the 28th of February, this was the first time I went home, and I saw that my younger brother, together with his classmates, so they organized DDoS attacks on various Russian websites, and that's great. So that's my answer. Thank you for your question. And first of all, young people of today, they have a much wider worldview. And many people have been abroad. They have seen other countries and they can compare and they can see the difference between the truth and fakes. They understand where they are going and what they want. So this is, well, the main thing I wanted to say. I would like to add a little bit of optimism here. We have been talking a lot of positive things about our young people, but we should understand that this category of youth is not homogeneous, and people who are around us go hand in hand. But there are also people we don't know and don't see because they are from a different social bubble, and that also pertains to critical thinking and fake news. I think that these problems are topical now, and they will be topical in the future as well, because these fake news. They appear from time to time, like including this NASA map with lighting. When on my way here, I read that this was actually information posted by Russia. So this fight with Russian fake news and this fight for human minds will continue, because in Lviv and bomb shelters during the air raid alerts, 13-year-old teenagers still listen to Russian music, and this is something we have to work with, not only in the, well, military and humanitarian front, but also in the culture at the cultural front line. So this is what Plast, and many other organizations are doing, and we still have a lot of work to do. Well, I agree with you. Everyone lives in their bubble, so to say, and the war goes on. And even after the victory, we will still need to achieve a victory at the cultural front to get rid of everything Russian, to popularize Ukrainian products. And we should start from the early years of life so that the next generations growing up can pass it on to their children, and so that it's done automatically. But we need to understand the following thing. When people are not doing something, they start thinking too much, they start overthinking. And that was one of the tasks of our chat, to engage as many people as possible so that they have no time to think about some negative things, but they contribute their energy and their anger to doing some good things, helping the army, helping the IDPs, helping to strengthen and build the barricades in Lviv. And my piece of advice is as follows: engage and get engaged to something useful, so that you have no time to think about the bad news. You'd rather use this energy for something useful. Thank you. Well, I agree with my colleagues. But at the beginning of war, I had this habit of, well, updating the news all the time. So we should not over concentrate on these things. We need to do something. We need to distract our attention from these things. And what concerns fighting fake news, well, everyone knows that fake news come here not only from within the country, but also from outside the country, and a lot of money is spent on that. And we have to remember about that. Fortunately, we live in the 21st century, and it's not difficult to verify any information. So no matter what you read, you need to check whether it's true. Just like with this NASA map. Many people believe that. I'm sure you got calls from the older generation, your grandfathers and grandmothers, saying, "Look what's happening." Well, in the present-day realities of power cuts and blackouts, we understand how quick our devices get discharged. The same works for the motivation of young people. How can we motivate young people to keep fighting, to keep working? What resources are lacking? Thank you for your question. How do we motivate them? Well, that's what we have been talking about. Well, first of all, we need to socialize them. We need to introduce the mechanisms of reward and encouragement. working with young people under 23 years of age, so we need to spend time well. We need to thank these people. This motivates them to keep working because they see that they are valued and the things they do is necessary. And this is very noticeable when you do some more large-scale things, like when you have a humanitarian hub, where you need a lot of volunteers and you give everyone some responsibilities. So some people sort things, the others send requests, the others send the aid. So everyone understands their responsibility and they keep working. What concerns what we should do next is that you need to transform what you have done already because it's not interesting anymore. You should start new initiatives. For example, now when we have no power, we have procured Starlinks, and together with our volunteers, we intend to install these Starlinks and to prepare hot teas. And this motivates them to move on because they are already bored with the work in humanitarian hub, but well, we need to do something new. So we need to keep transforming, and when we talk about young people, so we need to introduce some new things all the time and encourage them. Because young people are very different from the older generation. So we had the powerful parallels with people over 30 and volunteers under 25. People under 25 are interested in watching a movie after they do their volunteering part of work. If this volunteer is over 30, they don't even understand why they should spend time together. So talking about young people, we need to work with them as with young people, not as with older people. Thank you. Does anyone else want to answer this question? Well, what concerns the burnout of volunteers, not young people in general, we need to understand that volunteering is non-paid work, and it's okay that you don't have to volunteer every day. You shouldn't volunteer for 2-3 months in a row. And this feeling that if I go away, everything will break down, it should not be there. And those who create various volunteer initiatives have to take care of that. They need to create this replaceability of volunteers. So you work at the humanitarian hub, then you may kind of, well, be promoted. You may start coordinating these processes, or you may start doing something else like cultural volunteering, or you can start studying or working and take care of yourself, because we need to remember about work-life balance and remember about health. So this is a completely normal thing to feel burnout and to realize that you need to get some rest, and you shouldn't overburden yourself, but you need to think of how to transfer your volunteer responsibilities to someone else. What motivates me to work at BUR, this is our target audience, which we defined before the full-scale state of war. So we decided that we should engage people who have not volunteered before. So we even turned off the targeted ads for Lviv and Kyiv because they produced the most volunteers. We wanted people from Mykolaiv, from Kherson, from Zaporizhia. And this is what we keep doing because not all young people in Ukraine have already volunteered. So we keep working on engaging, maybe not 100%, but at least increasing this percentage. So it's not like these 20% of the active youth working all the time and bearing everything on their shoulders. They also need to keep developing, and we need to engage those people who have not tried volunteering yet. Supporting the ideas of my colleagues, I would like to say that young people should feel that they are valued, and for that purpose we need to start new initiatives to have creative approaches applied here. So we have in Plast, for example, a volunteer who ran every day to raise money for a drone. We had a girl who played chess and raised money for some initiatives. So these creative things, they prevent burnout and So this is volunteering as your calling. So for a person to feel that they like doing these things and that they are valuable for the society, and that's when they feel valued and when they don't feel burnout. Well, I should just when I heard the word burnout and the word volunteering, so when I heard them in a combination, I recalled that at the beginning of the war, I heard a phrase from a little older man. He told me, Stas, do you know the difference between a light bulb and a person? And I said, no, I don't. And he said, the light bulb may stop working, but a person shouldn't. So this is about the volunteering. So you don't have to do that. This is all about, well, volunteering, about your goodwill. So I do agree that, well, you volunteer, then you need to get some rest, then you volunteer again. Well, I and my colleagues from work and my colleagues from the Student Council of Lviv, we all follow a very simple rule. We wake up in the morning and we transfer money to some campaign. Twice a week, we go to make the camouflage nets together with other volunteers. I think it's okay. We need to get used to that. If we haven't gotten used to that since 2014, then, well, sharing your clothes. So you grew up of your clothes. You don't have anyone in your family to give it to, so give it to someone who needs it. So this is a kind of volunteering as well. So I would also like to mention why this volunteering is well, never ending. Our mayor on the 24th of February told us that our young people have drive, and that's true. Back in 2018, Lviv got the youth capital of Europe a day before yesterday. We also gained this award of youth capital of Europe of 2025. So that's 25. So that adds this drive to the young people of Lviv and young people of Ukraine in general, because we have a war going on, but we win the youth capital. We have war, but we launch an armored train to Kherson. So this adds to the motivation to all volunteers who serve for the good of Ukraine. Well, my colleagues have mentioned a lot already. They have mentioned many motivational things, and I could add that volunteering is the best way to discharge your batteries. But we need to remember about our previous hobbies. No one is going to kill you for having a cup of coffee at a restaurant or something like that. So you need to find some ways to distract your attention, and that's okay. Well, starting from the first days of full-scale invasion, we have witnessed, of course, this was a forced measure, but a part of very promising young people went abroad, but some of them stayed here, and we see that our universities are, well, empty because not everyone is ready to go back to Ukraine. So what should be the motivation to bring Ukrainian young youth back to Ukraine? And to be honest, I don't think that we need to motivate people and to make them go back. I think that everyone who wanted to go back has already come back. Uh, for example, in my circle, everyone who left in the first days of war, they all have already come back. From 7,500 people working in our company, well, 70% of those who went abroad plan to come back after the end of the hostilities. And the best motivation is the end of the war. Ukraine is now as united as it has never been. And if this spirit remains after the war, we won't have a problem of getting people back. Well, I would like to add that this is a very good idea, in fact. because I know a number of students. I know we worked together with them in peaceful times, and this pool of people with very similar mentality. After the 24th of February, they left. And when I ask them now whether you're planning to go back or not, they say, well, I have, found my place here. I feel like I should stay here. And then I think that this is about patriotism, and I've been thinking a lot about these things. And on the one hand, this is a good idea, but on the other hand, it's a sad one. You know, every person who went abroad, starting from the 24th of February, they need to feel these patriotic feelings. If they don't feel them, these people should not come back. Thank you. Well, you mentioned patriotism, which is a very important thing, but I think we should also talk not about something abstract, but about something physical, something material. When we started volunteering, we had 80 people. As of September, we already had only 20 active persons, and everyone chose certain goals, why they were volunteering or why they are staying in Ukraine. For example, we volunteer because we want Ukrainian cities to have McDonald's. We volunteer until we get the raccoon from Kherson back. So these are very measurable things. This is again about patriotism, but it's also about very material things you can measure, because it's very difficult to follow just a simple idea, and sooner or later you may decide that it's better to stay abroad. If you leave, but you have a very great material idea, you want to study abroad and then come back here and share this knowledge with people here, this is a totally different thing. And or after the war, after our victory, our cities, our authorities and local initiatives, if they start introducing these material things with a patriotic touch, this may help us attract back those people who moved abroad. But this motivation, letting people know why they should come back, so this should be something material, something measurable. And that will help us reconsider our actions abroad, and this will help people come back to Ukraine. For example, what could this be? If you want to start your business, but you have already relocated abroad, well, come back here and you can start your business here for free, or you can be freed from taxes for some period of time. And the person realizes, yes, I lived in Ukraine, it was okay, now I moved abroad and it's very difficult now to do business here. But if the country helps me restore my business and people around me support me in my home country, then this is a great material idea which will help me reconsider going back to Ukraine. So building business back from scratch, at least until that level we had before the war, or even more. Talking about the universities, we need to come up with an idea which will be interesting to our students, so that they want to go back here and continue their studies here or start working here after they graduate from a university abroad. So this should be something which is important for each and every one, but something that is also measurable. So that's how I see it. So this will be this driver that will help people come back. It's just like that patron dog. He helps people be more attentive in the streets, not pick up any suspicious items. It worked very well with people, and especially with children, because a dog is something children like very much. And again, talking about what should happen after the war, it should be very similar to things like that, so that people get motivated and they understand that when I come back, everything will be all right. I know why I'm coming back. Well, this topic is quite complicated, and as it has already been mentioned by my colleagues, um, I think that this should be about safety, physical, economic safety, and so on and so forth. But I should also add that we should probably work also not only about getting back those Ukrainian who left, but also attracting other people. We are now. We have many people from abroad registering for our volunteer camps, and people have been asking, how do I get the visa to Ukraine? And we said, we don't know. We have never done that. He's an American, and he said, I would like to live here. So, except Ukrainians who have left abroad, well, it's a disputable issue whether we should make them come back or not if they don't want to. But there's also a question of who would like to work. And it's not only about getting people back, but it's also about the positive conditions creating for people from around the globe who would like to say, well, it looks attractive, I want to live in Ukraine. And we don't understand really this information about migration, so people don't know how to migrate to Ukraine, how to relocate here, how to get the documents here. So I think that's something the public sector will have to work on, and the public sector will also have to work on the fact that in some 10, 20, or 30 years, the population of Ukraine will be not that ethnically homogeneous as it is right now. We may have more people of various nationalities and ethnicities, and that may be a challenge we will have to deal with. So this is about acceptance, not acceptance, and that is a topic that might be a good topic for reflection for Plast about this colorful Ukraine. Well, thank you for the question. I think that we should create the conditions for people to be willing to come back. Because in most cases, people who have moved abroad find it difficult to assimilate in local societies, and they want to go back home. And those people, like students and other categories of people who are abroad, some of them study there, and in some 4 to 5 years, that they will come back, or they would want to come back to their country. So we need to create these conditions for them to feel safe, so for them to feel that they are treated with justly and with dignity. And this experience from abroad is also very valuable for us, so that they implement their experience not there but here in Ukraine. So I think that after the victory, we will have to do a lot of work not to lose the possibility of building a totally different country. Well, talking about the work we'll have after the war, but also what we have to do in the 9 months of full-scale invasion, well, we all understand that war cannot have but impact people. So how will people be different from what we see right now, or from what we had on the 24th of February? Well, first of all, I think that after the victory, the volunteer movement, these massive fundraising campaigns should not stop. We just need to streamline this energy into other spheres, helping the people in need, helping people with rare diseases. And what young people feel right now is very important, because they will be bringing up the new generations with a different worldview, with different values, with the constant need to help the others as a value for them. And that will be the beginning of people, well, socializing and meeting the new challenges and crises, and knowing how to react to them. So this should become a kind of a part of everyday life. And I would like to add that I think that after the war, um, these young people, they will be uh, grown up, and we now have many NGOs, and they will reinforce the public sector, and it will be much more influential in the country. And this culture of volunteering and mutual assistance, which has already been mentioned, should remain there, and we should nurture it and support it. Maybe not at this level when we had the biggest challenges, but it should still be quite stable. Well, it's very important for the civil society sector to remain there, not to go anywhere, and using the opportunity of winning in the war, we should start attracting the investments to implement new projects, and new projects would need engagement of more volunteers, doing paid and unpaid work. The more initiatives we have, the more people will be able to find something that's interesting for them. And again, this is not so much about all the young people and the volunteers, but it's about the whole civil society sector after the war. Well, how quickly will they be able to attract investments? Because as soon as we uh, win the war, the possibilities to develop the country will be ample, and it's very important for the um, public around the country to attract these investments in a decentralized way, and to start implementing various educational projects and rehabilitation projects, reintegration projects for people who have suffered as a result of war, reintegration projects for people who will return from abroad. They will have to find mutual understanding with people who never left the country, because they will be feeling very differently. So the ideas there will be many ideas, and most important thing is not to lose this opportunity to pick it up, to attract investments, to engage young people and people in general to implement these initiatives in various areas. And this moment that the public sector will be able to attract these investments, well, that will define how volunteer movement and culture will live in future, because we have many people who would like to help, but they don't know how to do that, and what to do next. And then they will just adapt to what they have and will even forget about volunteering. So it's very important for us not to forget about our responsibility for those people, those volunteers who are there right now, and the responsibility for the country in general, and to start working in the new direction after we win, of course. Well, what I can add is that to restore Ukraine, we will need to have a lot of power, a lot of hands, a lot of money, and a lot of resilient people. And I think that our young people will be able to do that, because, where can you find more resilient people than those who have survived through the air raids and blackouts and all other war-related things. And we have also seen that we are now having more engineering students. Well, they have finally realized why they need to study physics at school. Stanislav, could you conclude? Well, I would like to give more of a romantic hint to that. Well, the question is, what kind of youth do you see after the victory? And it's not so much about the work, but it's more about the young people after the day when we win this war. So I see the young people just as like all other people, free, independent of everything Russian, of that music, of that culture. And I really wish the process of decommunization to come to an end. Our young people understand everything because, just as you mentioned in the beginning, we did not live in times of the Soviet Union, but our parents who brought us up, they saw a lot of it. And I really wish, this is more of a romanticizing of the picture, but still, I want that after the victory, my father never quotes Soviet films. And I think that after the victory, we will be able to achieve that. Thank you. As a representative of the young generation, I very much dislike this phrase that young people are the future of the country. It's not just, we are just well, a part of the community which creates the country at the moment. And I hope that all those things we have been talking about today will be implemented after our victory. And I would like to remind you that we had Stanislav Hvozdinskyi, the representative of the Youth Policy Department, student mayor of Lviv, Mariana Faryniak, project manager of the Building Ukraine Together project, Nazar, Kiryk, deputy chair of Plast in Lviv, Rostyslav Radysh, head of the Center for United Solutions, public organization, and Ostap, Pona, the engineer at GlobalLogic. Thank you for this discussion. Thank you. So this is it for today. Follow our schedule at the Resources of Media Center Ukraine, and we'll